represents Serbia's declaration of war on Austria-Hungary. If we miss this occasion, the monarchy will be exposed to new explosions of ethnic unrest. Austria-Hungary must wage war for political reasons.
In life, the Crown Prince had been a champion of peaceful coexistence with Serbia. In death, he was becoming a cause for war. The murder of Franz Ferdinand did not immediately set Europe alight. International tensions in early July remained low. But behind the scenes in Vienna, Austria-Hungary's leaders were planning how to take revenge on Serbia without getting stamped on by Serbia's powerful friends. Even before the assassination, Army Chief of Staff Konrad von Hötzendorf had pressed for war against Serbia no fewer than 20 times. Now he made his case again.
I expressed to His Majesty my opinion that war with Serbia was unavoidable. That is entirely correct, said His Majesty. But how are you going to wage war if everyone, in particular Russia, is going to attack us? We have backing from Germany, I replied. His Majesty gave me a searching look and said, "Can you be certain of that?"
This was the moment when what could have been just another war in the Balkans began to turn into the First World War. Austro-Hungarian Emperor Franz Joseph now asked the German Kaiser for support. On the 6th of July, he got just the answer he wanted.
The German government is of the opinion that we must decide what is to be done. Whatever we decide, we may always be certain that we will find Germany at our side, a faithful ally and friend of our monarchy.
Germany's crucial decision to back Austria was made with no care for the consequences. Neither the Kaiser nor his senior political and military leaders took any steps to find out what Austria-Hungary had in mind. It was an extraordinary oversight, because nothing in the Balkans happened in isolation. Europe was divided into two camps. On one side were Germany, Austria, Hungary and Italy. On the other were France and Russia. War with one could mean war with the others. No one knew how Russia would respond if one of the leading Balkan countries was attacked. She might go to war with Austria to protect Serbia. Then Germany would have to fight to protect Austria. The Germans thought the Russians might stay out of it. The German ambassador in St. Petersburg insisted Russia couldn't risk war for fear of internal revolution. The German foreign minister decided Austria would quietly settle with Serbia. The German chancellor, Bethmann Hollweg, was almost as confident.
The crime of Sarajevo was reprehensible, but politically it would have the positive result of making Russia thoroughly disgusted with the Serbs.
It was Germany's confident support that pushed Austria forward. But far from plunging the world into war in 1914 out of aggression, Germany was just nudging it closer out of incompetence and wishful thinking. The Kaiser was so sure no war was brewing that he went on holiday. In Sarajevo, the trial of Gavrilo Princip was underway. The court had plenty of evidence to prove that Serbian army officers had helped him. And with Germany's unconditional support, that was enough for Austria. She sentenced Princip to 20 years in jail, where he died in 1918. She sent Serbia an ultimatum. This document was Austria's excuse for war. It was filled with demands so extreme and insulting that Serbia could never accept them. But just in case they did, the Austrian ambassador in Belgrade was ordered to reject any reply as unacceptable. He delivered the ultimatum at 6 p.m. on the 23rd of July, 1914. Slavka Mihailovich was a Belgrade doctor.
The news of the ultimatum spread quickly, and soon there was a real alert. Streets and bars were crowded with anxious people. Everybody wondered what answer our government would give, whether a new war would be avoided.
Austria's ultimatum caught the world's diplomats napping.
The French government, the French press, and public opinion have been inconceivably surprised. Paris is almost dead. All the ambassadors but one are out of town. The Italian ambassador is in Ireland.
The Kaiser was on his yacht in Norway when the text of the Austrian ultimatum arrived.
The Kaiser arrived on deck as usual after breakfast and said to me, I was still holding the wireless message, "That's a pretty strong note for once in a while." "It certainly is," I replied, "but it means war." Whereupon the Kaiser observed that Serbia would never risk a war.
She might not have risked it on her own. But on the 24th of July, the Serbian regent, Prince Alexander, telegrammed Russia for help. In St. Petersburg, the Russian foreign minister spoke frankly to the British ambassador.
Austria would not have acted so aggressively without the consent of Germany. I hope the British government would declare itself on the side of France and Russia without delay.
Russia was convinced that Germany was warmongering. On the 26th of July, she called up her reserves. This was the second key stage of the crisis, as Britain's Foreign Secretary Edward Grey warned on the 28th.
From the moment the dispute ceases to be one between Austria-Hungary and Serbia and becomes one in which another great power is involved, it cannot but end in the greatest catastrophe that has ever befallen the continent of Europe.
Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia that same day. The first shots of the war were fired from here, the Austrian fortress of Zemun, just across the river from Belgrade. In the dead of night, Major Voja Tankasic had the Black Hand blow the only railway bridge.
Windows shattered to smithereens, and broken glass covered the floor. Patients started screaming. Then there was another explosion, and another one. So it was true. The war had begun.
How well our old city deserved the name the Turks had given her, the House of Wars. Shells fired from all sides were crisscrossing above her. The Austrians had peculiar weapons, the so-called monitors, little boats armed with heavy guns circling Belgrade like rabid dogs and firing from every direction.
It was still only a war between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. And on the 29th of July, as the shells fell on Belgrade, there was a final attempt to keep it that way. A series of last-minute telegrams flashed across Europe. Tsar to Kaiser, cousin to cousin.
Dear Willie, an ignoble war has been declared on a weak country. The indignation in Russia is enormous.
Dear Nicky, I am exerting my utmost influence on the Austrians. I confidently hope you will help me to...
Dear Willie, my troops shall not take any provocative action.
But by now, the crisis was beyond the control of monarchs or politicians. It was in the hands of the military. From the moment Russia mobilized her army, German generals knew their own clock was ticking. The alliance between France and Russia meant that Germany faced a war on two fronts. Her only hope was to deal with France in the west before the main Russian armies could invade from the east. That left no time to wait and see. For Germany, Russian mobilization meant war. Germany hadn't looked for a fight. Her generals knew a European war would be long and devastating, even for the victors. But if it was going to happen, they thought, better sooner than later.
According to all competent observation, Russia will be prepared to fight in a few years. Then she will crush us by the number of her soldiers. Then she will have built her Baltic Sea Fleet and strategic railways. Our side, meanwhile, will have grown steadily weaker.
On the 1st of August, Germany declared war on Russia. 2 days later, she declared war on Russia's ally, France. Across Europe, 10 million men headed off to fight. For all the bans and flag waving, many went unwillingly to war.
Where are we off to? France? Belgium? Or the East? At the station, people waved goodbye, some with handkerchiefs. I thought of my wife and child left alone at home. In fact, it wasn't so much a thought as a fearful shadow flitting over my soul.
God, how long is this town? My bayonets digging in, my collar strangling me. But when I look up, I see a pretty girl. She is so full of admiration, so moved by it all that I realize we've got to look handsome and walk tall. Off we march to the sound of shrill brass. Although where we're going, you die, you're defaced, hacked up, torn apart. All down the line, my comrades straighten up at the sight of her.
There's great excitement among my comrades. The bachelors are calm, they're even joking about it. Family men are depressed. Some are saying we'll get nothing from this war. We'll get beaten by the Germans. What's in it for us peasant soldiers? Why have we got to fight for some offended Serb?